Tanks have come a long way from their early days of crossing trenches and dodging landmines. The most capable tanks of today, like the Leopard and Abrams with their heavy guns and targeting systems, more and more resemble battleships crawling on land. The question is whether these behemoths, which have dominated the battlefield for over a century, are going extinct, or are they just evolving into something smaller? This question is posed by the war in Ukraine, where tanks are proving more vulnerable than ever, and that TM due to technologies like the Javelin launchers and FPV drones. In Ukraine, the traditional tactics of open-field tank battles are proving less and less viable, with armored casualties mounting on both sides, due to far more cost-effective methods, such as ambushes and anti-tank infantry. But from these heavy losses, a new strategy is emerging for armored warfare. Light and fast. Both the Russians and Ukrainians have begun to use lighter vehicles for their operations in the flat eastern steppe of Ukraine. One class of vehicle specifically, the AEO Infantry Fighting Vehicle ATO, or IFV, is stealing the spotlight from the heavier main battle tanks Savor 4, and for good reasons. But why tanks need to lose weight, not so they can go faster, but to stay relevant. How the M1 Abrams gained its legendary status somewhat unfairly, and why IFVs are stealing the spotlight in the Ukraine war. To the extent that having Bradleys might be more effective than having F-16s, is not what you think. The legendary status of the Abrams main battle tanks were cemented over 30 years ago, in a battle during the Persian Gulf War between the United States and Iraq. This engagement, known as the Battle of Medina Ridge, lasted 2 hours, during which the U.S. Army forces annihilated almost 200 Iraqi T-72 tanks, while losing only 4 Abrams tanks. Early on after the battle, many historians would go on to credit the superior armor and targeting technology of the Abrams for this resounding success. But there OTM's one pretty big detail that is often left out about this battle, which is that the Americans had total air supremacy and could use their A-10 Warthogs and AH-64 Apaches to overwhelm the Iraqi tanks. It's how TM's this detail that is missing today in Ukraine, since neither the Russians nor the ITO-TM use a lack of resources and parts to maintain their aircraft, while for the Ukrainians, ITO-TM a lack of aircraft and qualified pilots to fly them. Without air superiority, protecting tanks from infantry ambushes and anti-tank weapons is difficult, since there to team has no element of suppression or reconnaissance from the air. But there to also another wrinkle with protecting tanks. Even with air superiority, the development of drones has made it nearly impossible for tanks to hide on the battlefield, since operators can fly low-profile commercial drones and spot them from anywhere. Once a tank is spotted, it is easy for enemy soldiers to use an anti-tanky weapon or another drone to take it out, which has led to steady losses of tanks since the start of the conflict. But just because armor is becoming more vulnerable, does now TM to mean it's becoming obsolete, and TAMs with these changing conditions that vehicles like the American M2 Bradley and of the Russian BMP-3 are beginning to shine. Even though the news would have you believe that the answer to all of Ukraine TM's troubles is F-16s and Abrams super tanks, the truth is really something less extreme. This is because the Russo-Ukrainian war is a slow crawl of attrition rather than the typical short shock conflicts common in the 21st century. And in a war of attrition, preserving infantry is a critical objective. That is why the Bradley Infantry Fighting Vehicle has become the star of the show for Ukrainian forces, with some even claiming they owe their lives to its support.